Hello, everybody, and welcome to Teachers in the Dungeon. I'm Tom Gross, and joining me is Dan Ream.
Hello. I'm on a new mic. Can you tell?
I can't right now because I can hear you. We're in the same room, but I'm sure it sounds wonderful.
I guess maybe I was asking the audience. But
Oh, yes.
But you might hear some thumps and stuff. I'm trying to get this arranged. So my goal is, now this is where, again, because we don't have anybody else, I am the audio engineer. So I act like I know what I'm doing. I really don't. But what I've noticed with my other mic was that it was too sensitive and it was picking up me and you.
Oh.
So you had a little bit of an echo or a different sound to your voice that was bothering me when I was trying to do equalizers and stuff. So we're going to see if this mic picks me up and picks you up less.
Yeah. I mean, I am loud, that is for sure. I thought that echo was like the celestial in me or something. But
no, and again, it is not, it wasn't too noticeable, but again, and the more I worked with it, I thought, I can't get your voice to sound as pristine as I want it to. So we're gonna
that might not be technology, by the way. I'm just going to give you a heads up on that. Well, hey, Dan, Happy New Year.
Yes, same to you.
Thank you. And boy, I'll tell you what, the goblins are a little quiet now because boy, was it rambunctious in here on New Year's Eve.
Well, yes, that bobbling is never going to be the same, I don't think. So it's less said the better, but let's just say that Tom taught him a lesson. So
That's right. And I agree with you. The less that is said is the better. So it's become our tradition over the last couple of years. I love being able to say that. Last couple of years.
Yeah.
Is on this show of this time of the year is to kind of talk about our goals for Teachers in the Dungeon. Maybe even some personal goals or even some goals about the game going forward into 2024.
Yeah.
So,
and I did my homework.
Oh.
And went back and looked at last year's goals.
Oh, good. I didn't do my homework.
So we could see so we could see how we did.
How did we do?
So yeah, so we can share those with you and recap, keep ourselves accountable to our listeners.
When you say it, you have to do it. Well, I mean, at least you make the attempt to do it because I don't think we probably got everything.
We weren't 100%.
Okay. I feel like we probably were pretty good. I don't remember what we said, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
So anyway, then we can do that, and then we can talk about upcoming goals for this year.
And we also sat down and kind of hammered out a plan for 2024
yes.
of the show. So we'll be able to share that
very,
as well.
Very organized. I feel put together.
I feel a little bit out of place because that's not usually me. So, but I'm glad. I am happy for that. So we'll share that with you as well. All right. So let's hear it. How did we do on our 2023 goals?
Okay. Do you want to hear yours first or mine first?
Let's do yours first.
Okay.
Because I suspect it's probably a better list.
I don't know about that. It was different. We had some overlap, but there were definitely some differences. So, okay. Well, I wanted to push us out onto YouTube. Our friend Ross, who's also done some podcasting, said it's the second most popular search engine in the world. So you need to. I never thought it was. We don't have video. It's just audio.
Right.
But as I thought about what he said, when I'm terrain building, I usually grab YouTube and just find something to listen to while I'm doing my work. And I'm not watching YouTube, I'm listening to YouTube.
Right.
So I thought, well, okay, that makes sense. So, yes, so we have achieved that. I have not moved all of our episodes over, but I've gotten to the point now where whenever we have a new episode released, it does go to YouTube then after. So nice. I finally found some free software that I know how to use. So I was able to do, because with YouTube, even if it is just audio, you have to have a video
of some sort
with it. And so I had to find something that I could figure out how to put still images in and all of that. So I found that. And it's just a couple more steps from what I was already doing, so that was pretty easy.
So from some of our newer shows, then, if we talk about something, a product, or even just something that might have a visual that goes along with it, and you're listening to the podcast through like Spotify or someplace like that, and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is, you could jump over to that show on YouTube, and likely, possibly, that image will pop up when we're talking about that.
Yes, I've done that to an extent. If there's a topic that lends itself to images, we've talked to someone, a creator, dice maker, whatever, I will go to their images, pull those, and put those on so that you can see the dice we're talking about or whatever. So, yes, so I would count that as I didn't get all the episodes on, but I would count that as a win. My second related to that is I wanted to move the podcast into at least some video, particularly around maybe terrain building.
Okay.
And that is a fail. I have not done that yet.
All right.
So I have to I've learned this about myself, that if I'm going to take on a new goal like that or a new task or undertaking, I need to have thought it through in my head before I implement anything. And if it doesn't make sense in my head, I tend to just not do it until I sort that out. So right now I'm thinking through, all right, do I want to just use my phone camera? Do I want to go ahead and get some sort of an entry-level video camera? Where am I going to do that? I want to pull you in, so we're working on terrain together. How do I don't really have the space for two of us to sit. All of the logistics.
Right, lots of stuff.
So lots of moving parts. So I haven't figured that out. So that is a fail.
Less a fail, more of a like in progress. In progress.
So next was one of the goals was presenting at Gen Con.
Yeah.
You can check that off. We did that, and that went very well. That was fun.
Extremely well. I was so pleased with the way that turned out.
I got an adrenaline rush from that when that was done.
And sort of left like a cliffhanger for next year's subject that we're going to propose to Gen Con again. We have a new topic, and you have already done a lot of the footwork on preparation for that. So can't wait to...
might actually be a goal here in a minute. So
I'll be quiet.
No. You set it up. It's perfect. So that was a success. Another goal was expanding summer camp. And if you followed us, we went from 9 students to 27.
Yeah.
We invited a bunch of new guests. Some, Cameron Johnson and Jamie Leonard.
Jamie Leonard from
Jamie Leonard for a D20 dinner. We had Limitless came in.
Yep.
Andrew Kaywood zoomed in from Canada.
Yep.
So that was a super success. I think we went above and beyond.
I think the kids really liked that.
Yeah.
They're there to play. They really want to play, which, hey, I would want to be there to play too. But I think that really added a new element.
Yes. Yeah. Next one, I wanted to get my homebrew world to a publishable level. I don't necessarily intend to do anything like that, but I just liked the challenge of trying to polish it up. And that is a fail. I have not.
No, that is in progress. It is in progress because I know it's going to happen eventually.
I have not done really anything on that yet. And part of it is, and you know this even from using published work, is once you've run a campaign for a while, if you're doing your job as a DM and integrating backstory and all of that, it gets personalized to the point where you have to take all that out if you're going to make this like something that you would offer for sale.
I see. Yeah.
And so that's part of is untangling the plot threads that really were unique to your characters and making it something that would fit, for anybody.
Yeah.
So on top of all the other things that I would have to do. I mean, it really is when you really, again, mentally start making the checklist of what are the things I would have to do to my notes. It's
kind of mind-boggling.
It is, yeah. It becomes overwhelming. I mean, I'm already impressed with folks that do publish. I mean, Andrew Kaywood just churns this stuff out, and it's awesome. You know? But I think, man, when you really start to think about what it takes to do that.
Right. It's a huge multi-leveled, multi-tiered sort of task-oriented type of work. That is not me.
No.
I can do one thing.
I don't know how they do it. And my last one was to grow our podcast, which, looking at our Spotify numbers, we did grow.
Yes,
So,
we did. Yes, we did. Thank you to everybody
Yes.
who's listening and has joined us this year new. And thank you to everybody who has been with us since the very
Yeah.
beginning. We've been the end of 2023 were some of our best weeks of podcasting. I mean,
You're right.
The best numbers coming out, and while we do a lot of the work to bring interviews and things like that in, you take the time. You've invested your time in us, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
We do this for the fun of just talking about games and role playing, but we love that you are enjoying it. So thank you all so much. And yeah, we grew the podcast for sure.
Yeah. The networking and the friendships that have happened have been pretty noticeable. Like I don't want to say they reach critical mass or anything goofy like that, but I've suddenly become aware that there are people we've interviewed that I'm friends with now.
Yeah.
There are listeners from their very beginning that I will have chats with on social media, and it's just, hey, I know a little bit about your life now, and I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear. And so that's never have too much of that.
Right. Absolutely.
So, okay.
Is it my list?
You're on the hot seat.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Your first one was you want to do more on location live shows.
It was really just an excuse to go someplace, have a coffee or have a beer, and be able to be able to talk. So, I mean, we did some of those things, but it was more out of necessity because we were at convention like GaryCon or Gen Con. But I would really like to do more of that this year. And you have kind of set us up for that with the new microphones that you've gotten.
Yes.
And so hopefully we'll be able to do like come to you kind of things here in the Midwest.
So, yeah. In progress?
In progress.
Yes. Okay, your next one was related to that. You wanted to do a tavern show.
Yeah. We didn't get that one done.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, wait. Yeah, we did. Well, it wasn't intentional, but it
No.
just sort of happened that way. Our summer camp recap
Yes.
was at a local tavern here in town. And so, yeah, we did do that.
With all
There
the
we go.
ambient noise in the background
Yeah.
and all of that.
I love that. I love that. So I still would like to do more of that.
Yes. You wanted to do an interview in a game store.
Yes, and that one did not happen. And I think we've got a pretty good chance of that happening this year.
Yeah.
We've got our local game store here in our town. We also have several game stores in our region. We're really fortunate, actually, to have so many game stores. And really, for the most part, they all work pretty well together. They know what their strengths are. They know what they're not interested in. And so
They seem to be specializing a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they know their lanes, and that sounds like that they're put in those lanes. They've chosen their lanes, and they really stick to it, and are helpful sending people to other places. So I want to get and talk to more of those people. So that's a in progress, maybe 2024.
You wanted to do more interviews.
Oh, yes, that's a check mark.
Yes.
I feel like we worked really hard to get some interviews.
Particularly in December, that worked out really well. It was a good idea of yours to highlight products.
Yeah.
And third-party creators.
Yes, and we had the fortune to get in touch with a publicist or a publisher through Dan Zaire of Coffee with Kenobi, passed that on to us, and we got some pretty notable people on the show in 2023.
Yeah.
We talked to Jim Zub and Stacey King and Andrew Wheeler that wrote the Young Adventurers books. We talked to, this one was great, the people who wrote the Art and Arcana, I always say this one backwards, Lore and Legends, I think is what it is. But that was Michael Whitwer, Sam Whitwer, Kyle Newman, and John Peterson wasn't on, but he's one of the contributing authors to those books. And those were just wonderful people to talk to. But then, of course, Mark Oberly was a new person we talked to this year. Adam Watson was someone else we talked to this year. The folks over at Limitless Adventures. I mean, just so many people that we visited with in 2023. And that was one of the things I really wanted to do is talk to the community. So I felt like that's a check mark.
Yes.
With a Sharpie marker.
Yep. You wanted to recap the Waterdeep adventure.
Well, we I think you can go back to April. There might be a couple episodes. I think we did an introductory where we talked about all the characters, and then we did a recap up to where I think you acquired the Troll Skull Manor.
Yeah.
And then we just got busy.
Yes.
And it is a complicated storyline.
Yes.
We ran with so I'm DMing it. We ran with the adventure Dragon Heist adventure, but I let you guys kind of do your own thing too, and so it became complicated that way. I also wanted to throw in some adventures from other areas, so we went to Eberron.
It's like trying to recap a TV series rather than a movie.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's a good way to put it. Because we just did
episodic arcs and big arcs and characters coming and going, and
so I think, well, we'll get into this in a little bit, but I think that's still going to happen. So that's an in progress for sure.
Yes. And then your last one was to offer other role play game opportunities at Game Club.
Yeah, I think that's a check mark as well, because besides the D&D adventures that we're doing, one of our student DMs is running the new Marvel Multiverse role play game.
Yeah.
And then our friend Marcus said, "Yeah, I'll do a Dungeon Crawl Classic with the kids."
And a funnel and
wow, they're having a blast. They're having a blast. They've gotten past that 0 level, and so I think those characters are starting to level up, and I think there's some attachments starting to happen.
And I don't know if we've mentioned this, but Mark gets extra props. And again, I want to be delicate with how I mention this, but we've got a special needs student who has some hearing issues but really wanted to be in Game Club. Yep. And this is where I feel like our school shines, because the special ed department's like, sure, what do you need? So they provided the personnel to be able to translate.
Yep.
And this kid is loving Dungeon Crawl Classics.
He came into the library the day after one of the gameplays, and some kids were gone that day. So one of our Brian, our student, or one of our staff members who play games but also supervise sometimes, he played in the game that day. And our student came in the next day, and I said, "Hey, did you have fun at Game Club last night?" "Oh yeah, he had a great time. He had a great time." And then he's like, I could see that he was like, had some consternation, and he was signing to his interpreter, and he goes, "But no adults anymore." He just wants to play with kids.
He wasn't an opinionated young man. He really is.
And so he said, "No more adults playing with us. We just want kids playing," which I thought was great.
Yes.
I thought it was great. But yes, so we brought some of those, and I have other games that I want to be bringing in next year.
And we could probably count the DMless adventures from Limitless.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a group.
We didn't have quite enough DMs, so we had some kids on a waiting list, and you provided them Limitless adventures.
The DMless adventures, which is their box set of cards that you can use to play your 5e characters, but everybody at the table, at some point when they play their card, they DM that part of the adventure. And the kids loved it. I was a little worried because I started the year a month late, because I just like to make sure all the games are in session. And one of our students is in sports in the fall, and so that game didn't start until October. So all of those players in my game, the students' game, and then the people on the waiting list were playing DMless adventures. They were having so much fun. I was kind of like, are they going to want to come back to my adventure after playing? They were having a blast. And so, yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I'm just thinking about games that teachers or students are leading. The students are just leading themselves, and it's great. It worked out so much better than I envisioned it.
Yes.
And we still have kids playing in those DMless adventures
they seem
every session.
Cool. All right, so that was from last year.
Yeah.
So what's in your goals for this year?
Well, I don't know where to start. I'm going to start with one that's continuing one from last year, and that's YouTube. So I have a personal goal with that, to actually help you in contributing to that. So sorry, Dan has been 100% the YouTube guy. Oh, and let's also say the editing person. And let's say Facebook and Instagram. the vast majority of all of that is all Dan. So personal, I would like to contribute more to the YouTube content, but what I was looking at here, and this is easy for me to say, but I would love to see where we put some exclusive content on there. So here are a couple ideas. I'm thinking using the new cookbooks, and the names of those have escaped my mind right now.
Flavors of the Multiverse.
Flavors of the Multiverse is the new one, and I forget what the other one is, but there's two out there. And again, we mentioned the Whitwers and Kyle Newman and John Peter. They're the authors of those books. I'm thinking a Dan and Chris Metz in the kitchen series with where you guys make those, right? Because you don't want me in the kitchen. I'll record it.
High entertainment value.
It would be high entertainment value, but it would be completely worthless beyond the good laughs. Something in you and Chris in the kitchen making some of those recipes that are in the books. I'll record it and just showing the work, because you both have brought things to the table, the game table from that book, and they are just absolutely marvelous. And I can look at the pictures in there and I can get all the salivating and like, oh, that looks delicious, but you don't want me doing that. So that's one is that. And then I definitely think we need to do a series. You mentioned it earlier, is the terrain building with a novice. That would be me, but with guidance from you, and we do some terrain building with that. And same thing with the miniature painting with a non-painter. Because sometimes, and here's why I say the novice and the non-painter is because sometimes I watch those videos and I'm like, yeah, but
right.
I don't have that skill. And so how do I get started as a painter? And so I think those would be cool video series. Tricky because of time. We're both teachers and extremely busy during the school year, but maybe those are summer projects, or maybe we just buckle down and we say, we're just going to hammer out some of these. And so I would love to see that. Because, and you mentioned Ross, our friend Ross Holleben. I know when he says that this is the thing to do, I know it's we need to listen. And you did. And you got us off the ground on that. And I think 2024 would be a great time to sort of push that plane a little bit higher.
Yeah. Okay. Most of mine are continuations of things I felt like I didn't achieve. So I don't need to add much more. One of my goals is to go ahead and do some videos of terrain building. Yeah. I've dabbled with it on Instagram and was not horrified by the results. So I might keep going with that. So long ago when I envisioned this, I had some goofy title like terrain building for those with no basic motor skills or something like that. How do you do this if you are not an art teacher?
Right.
And so that's kind of the direction I feel like we should take, is kind of what you were saying.
Yeah.
And hopefully there would be some entertainment value. I mean, who doesn't like to watch Pinterest fails or the images of those?
Oh, I mean, if I'm the novice, there will be plenty of things done wrong. I mean, if you have knives and hot things, I will burn myself and I will cut myself, and that will be entertaining. I'm sure people will think that's hilarious. Tom just did 2 hit points of fire damage to his index finger. Let's see. One of my goals was to get back to the adventures. That was the heart and soul of this show in the first year. Is we shared our adventures from Telesaria, we shared our adventures from Slaint, and I know that we have people that enjoyed listening to that, and we kind of got away from it. At the end of 2023, we talked about the chaotic adventure we've been running, but I really want to get back to at least a monthly conversation of we're starting Waterdeep up again here in this month. And so I think it'd be good to kind of get back on track with that. Yeah. Because that's part of the fun of D&D, is talking about the highlights of the adventure, the fails, the successes, the goofs by the DM, the goofs by the players. And so that's one of my goals for 2024.
So, and my next one would be real quick too. I still have the idea of getting my homebrew polished up. I think the problem I have is, where do I start? I feel like a manageable thing would be Slaint.
Okay.
Because I knew what I was doing more by that point. Yeah. It's a DM, and I feel like it held together. There was a stronger story arc possible in there, but also you had more actual choices rather than me telling Chris, I'm sorry, you can't go down that street.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think that's a honorable, but also a really cool goal to take something that you've created and make it somewhat more professional and getting it to a level where, you could conceivably say just a little bit more work and polish that this is something that you could put out there on, I don't know where you put those, there's an RPG
Drive-through.
Yes.
Yeah. Drive-through RPG.
Drive-through RPG. Yeah. Where you could put it on something like that,
Yeah.
or even just,
I don't know what it takes to do a backer kit or a Kickstarter, or if that's even
something
worth
like
it,
that.
But yeah.
And while you're just talking about that, this is where my mind goes. If I were to take something that I was going to try, I think in polishing, because looking at the storyline and then trying to decide, all of these different directions, you get to the intersection. Which intersection do I write about first? Maybe you start by writing about and like defining the NPCs. Yeah. I don't know if that would be easier or not. I know there are a lot of experts out there that probably would be happy to give you some suggestions and ideas. But I was just like, how do you begin something like that? And I was thinking, well, monsters don't really change. NPCs will grow, but they also have a starting point.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's an easier spot to start. I don't know. But I'm glad you're going to continue that, at least in thought. But I will bet this is going to be the year where you're going to start writing some stuff down and getting it into an official spot. Another goal for me in 24 is to continue the interviews. I really enjoy talking with creators and people who are involved in the game, everything from DMs to players, but then also the people that make the things that we use at the table. We really went heavy on the interviews in the second half of 2023. I don't know that I necessarily want to go that route because it is a lot of work to arrange it, find a time, and then take the time to record it. Not saying I didn't enjoy that. I totally enjoyed it, but so I'm thinking, we pare it down and maybe we do, again, this is kind of giving a little foreshadowing of our schedule, but maybe try to get one interview a month with a contributor. And here's what I love about that. Sometimes I sit back and it was when we were talking to Mark Oberly and he's just such a good storyteller of the products that they have. He has such a deep knowledge of their worlds and things like that. And I was sitting here thinking, this is what I love about podcasting and why years and years ago I got into radio is this gives everybody a chance to share their story and document the things that are out there. Mark's stories are now, they're here. They're saved on Teachers in the Dungeon, our library, and anybody can go back at any time and learn more about Nightbane or, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles update game, that they started. And I just love that we document these people's thoughts and the authors that we talk to. So I want to keep the interviews going, maybe pull back just a smidge, but categories I wrote down is I want to talk to our friends more. And when I talk about friends, I mean like our local, the guys we play with, like to talk to them. We have some dream interviews out there, as well as all of the creators and the third-party folks that we've met and I have yet to meet at GaryCon or at Gen Con, or even our local community. So that's continuing our interviews is definitely something is a goal.
Cool. Yeah, honestly, the remaining mine are kind of similar. I guess the one I'll say next is a goal is to present again at Trade Day at Gen Con. And I suppose we could give a little bit of
Sure.
We're looking to what we found last year was that there was a real desire to know how to connect among teachers, librarians, game store owners.
Yes.
And that was voiced a ton in that audience when we asked for questions. And so I was thinking, well, why don't we try to meet that need? So we're in the process of actually, my wife just got her doctorate, her EDD, and she had to do research And so I am leveraging that, learning the best way to construct a questionnaire to get information that's useful. And we're in the process now of contacting librarians and game club sponsors and game store owners to try to get feedback and just see what's happening out there. And our goal then is to put that into a presentation and share that at Gen Con this year.
Yes. I think we'll have a lot of people come to that, or at least have an interest in that.
I said, trying to anticipate what would help people, what would be useful, and provide that.
And so, and you're right. It really comes from that discussion time that we had with everybody at our last presentation. They just really had that. How do I do this? How do I reach out? How do I? So, hopefully, this will be sort of a enlightening presentation for those people. But going to be research based.
Yes.
And hopefully have some really concrete ideas of how to go about doing this.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't have that on my list, so I'm glad that you do. Let's see. Another one is, well, okay, this is a continuation, kind of going back to my one last year of the on location and tavern shows. I want to do some field trips. Definitely. And I'm going to change the name of it to make it sound more fun and teachery. It's called the road trips, and do remote shows from the game stores to be able to meet with people, gamers, and go to the taverns. Because I know in our local area, there are a lot of taverns in our area that have game nights. And I think it'd be cool to talk to some of those tavern owners. Like, what's the benefit to you to having that?
Yeah.
And are the gamers a new clientele? Are they clientele that's already here, but you're just giving them another reason to be here? I'm really interested in finding out those types of things. So doing more road trips. We have a friend of ours who is from Smuggler's Coffee, and they are opening up a coffee shop. And so that would be a field trip that I'd love to make, is to their new coffee shop up in northwestern Indiana-ish. Anyway, I think that would be a fun field trip as well. So anyhow.
And this is where I lose all touch with reality. I have ideas that I shouldn't have.
You want to do a D&D soundtrack?
Well, that would be cool. I'll put that for next year's goal.
Okay.
But the Gen Con experience, Gary Con experience, so amazing. We don't really have a gaming con in this area.
Right.
So my pie in the sky goal is help build a gaming convention in our area. We are a suburb of Peoria, and the entire population is almost 500,000 in this whole area. So not huge, but also not tiny.
Right.
It could generate something. So that's not going to happen this year, but I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in this and kind of put this out there to hold myself accountable that we've managed to make some connections with some people who are similarly minded. And so my goal is to help them as much as I can get a gaming convention started in this area.
Yeah, and take it a step further is we're kind of dabbling in that right now, because when in a couple weeks will be my event that we've talked about in the past. I run an event at our school for the community called Steam into Star Wars, and it has largely been a kind of a vendor podcasting kind of convention. We have a book sale and things like that. And last year you came to me and said, what if you did concessions? Because we've been really trying to hit the concession stands to raise money for our summer camp and things like that. And you came and said, we would do the concession stand at Steam and Star Wars. And I'm like, okay, so if we do that, then I was like, then I want to expand a little bit, going to make it longer so we have a lunch hour and things like that. And I thought, okay, a concession stand and having a lunch hour would also encourage people to stay longer, to experience more of the show and hear more of the podcasts and visit with people more. And so I was like, why are we not doing gaming at this event? And so I worked with the athletic director to be able to get a space in our gymnasium. Now, not the gym itself, but a balcony. And so we are kind of dipping our toes into this gaming convention idea. and we're going to have game demos and other types of games up on this gym balcony where people can come and try out different types of games. Our local game store, a couple of their employees that are former students, well, one's a student and one's a former student, are going to run game demos. And then a couple of other people involved in game stores are going to be there to run games.
Right. There's a not-for-profit group that runs gaming activities that are going to volunteer and help out with that. And then we've got another gentleman who does run a convention in the area that's more vendor-based.
Right.
He is going to have some space there too.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's
so we're kind of expanding that, and people are like, well, how does that fit STEAM? The science, technology, and engineering. Games to me are very much an art, but there's also I think a lot of times mathematics involved in making a game. That's the one aspect I was thinking about recently that I'm kind of missing now that we're adding gaming to it, is finding people who make games to be there and talk to the shows and be available at a booth or something like that. So I don't know, I'm working on that. I love that you've taken that on, because I do think in a metropolitan area of 500,000 people, there's got to be, and especially with all the game stores we have in our area, there's got to be a market for a 1 or 2 day gaming convention where these stores, maybe some game companies might want to show off their wares, but then also just have these massive amounts of tables where people can just come.
Get the community together.
Yeah. And I just, and you said it, being at Gary Con or Gen Con, especially Gary Con too, you just see that people come together.
Yeah.
And how many times I sat down at a game demo with a total stranger and we hit it off because we're both gamers. I've come across a few that were kind of competitive, but most of the time they're like, oh, well, if you did this. I sat down at a new Star Wars card game last Gen Con and playing with a guy that was clearly better at the game or just better at gaming than I was, who was like kind of coaching me through it while I was playing him, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that's a great goal to have, if not for 24, definitely 25. I think that's a reality. But let's see how it goes at Steam into Star Wars.
Yeah.
Let's see what the interest and things like that. Let's see. You had mentioned about having a way to connect with our listeners and having the conversation. And a lot of times that happens on social media through the chat options that they have. Even our Gmail, we have people that we communicate with, teachersinthedungeon@gmail.com. But we've talked about this, and it's a little complex in my world when I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. But boy, would I love to be able to communicate with people through a media that is designed for that. And I think Discord is the direction. Yeah. We've mentioned starting a Discord channel for Teachers in the Dungeon so that we can have that time to be able to, have a constant conversation going on for an hour, but then also stepping away and being able to check on it and be able to communicate with people that way. Again, I don't know. Our friend Adam Watson started a Discord channel or Discord for his organization. So I think if we have conversations with him, and then I'm sure there are others out there that would probably be able to help us out with that. But I think that's a legitimate goal. Whether it actually happens in 24 or not, I don't know. But I certainly think 24 is the year to explore it and see what it would take to have a Discord channel for Teachers in the Dungeon.
That dovetails with my final goal, which is just, again, a rollover, is to keep growing the podcast.
Yep.
And I do, it's easy to sound saccharine, but I do mean it, that I like when I hear that this is enjoyable or fills a need or does something good for people. So that's kind of where I would like to see this go, is to take note of things that we do that seem to be beneficial just to people we know, to the community in general, and really lean into those things. So that's kind of that's a tough goal to figure out how you would realize, but that's, I think, something that I would like to see us work on.
Yeah, definitely. And with that said, I still have one more, but with that said, let us know, if you're listening to this show and you're like, wait a minute, they didn't say this. Well, I wonder if let us know. Send us an email. Again, teachersinthedungeon@gmail.com, or jump onto our Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook and let us know what you think about our goals. Or if you have things that you would like to see from this show, we would love to know. These are not ironclad. We're not flexible. We most definitely are flexible. If we've got something that we can help you or fill a need or just be entertaining.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. But
dance for us.
Yeah, that's right. Let us know, because we would love to know that. And so my final one, and this is one that again, it's kind of scary to me. A couple weeks ago, our last week of school before the holiday break, Dan showed up at my office door and plopped a bag down on my desk and said, "For my podcasting partner, Merry Christmas." And then you came back a little bit later and you said, "Wash it before you wear it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I still hadn't opened it. And so I pulled it out, and it was a magnificent Teachers in the Dungeon t-shirt that has our very basic logo on the front. And we have some of those shirts already. But then on the back has our full Teachers in the Dungeon logo without the brick background. It's just, and it has that on the back, and it just looked great. And so it got me thinking, boy, I would love to be able to share that with, and have people have that opportunity. And so I don't know, maybe a merchandise store for Teachers in the Dungeon might be kind of fun. Possibly. I don't know. That would be something I'd love to hear from all of you listening, if that would be something that you'd be interested in, a ball cap with Teachers in the Dungeon on it, or a t-shirt that has the logo or something like that. I think that would be fun, but, and show our community when we show up places. So I don't know. Let us know what you think about that, if that would be something that you'd be interested in, but that's a possibility as a goal in 24. Well, we've got the schedule we kind of wanted to share that we hammered out before we close up the dungeon for today.
I would say for myself, that was one frustration with myself I had last year, is I felt like we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants sometimes. I like the shows we put out. I think I think we have quality that's pretty consistent, but I felt like I'd like to have an idea of little series of things we could do and that sort of thing. So yes, I think our schedule sort of accomplishes that.
Yeah. And just a little behind the scenes here, as we were putting this schedule, Dan said that, hey, let's do a little schedule and see if we can do some planning for the new year. He called in the goblins. They stood next to my chair to make sure I didn't get up or off track. And so we were able to hammer out what I think is a pretty good
I'm excited
schedule. Like you guys will all know, for the most part, what to expect week in and week out from the show going forward. So do you want to talk about our basic schedule?
Sure. Yeah. So we are essentially just breaking down each month. So we're going to have several series running parallel.
Yes.
So if there's something that you're not interested in, don't worry, the next week will be different. And if there's something you're really interested in, well, you'll just have to wait till the next month.
To the next month, yeah.
We're definitely going to keep our interviews going, but we're going to do that once a month.
Yep.
We are looking at a series called What We've Learned.
Yeah.
As listeners know, Tom, you've played for decades. And although I was aware of the game, I've really only been in for a few years. So I thought it'd be kind of useful just to take stock.
Yep.
So we're going to look at different topics and say, okay, now that we've played for a while, what have we learned about role play?
Yeah.
What have we learned about running a big bad? What have we, and just kind of consult our experiences at the table, things and again, this has sort of been our goal from the very beginning of this show, is warts and all.
Yeah.
We're not experts, but sometimes you can learn as much actually a lot of times you learn as much from mistakes as from doing it perfect. So we wanted to share the things we did that we wouldn't do again.
Yeah. And when you suggested that, I love that reflective piece to kind of go back and look at, okay, so I've been DMing Waterdeep. I've never done a city campaign before. What have I learned from doing that?
Right.
As a DM. So I think that is a really cool, has a lot of cool potential. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. And then next we're going to do a series on, I always like just like you and I are talking about, there's other podcasts that we like to listen to occasionally that will do just talk about a monster, just talk about and it's just fun. I just like learning, even if they're just reading out of the monster manual. Sometimes that's entertaining too.
Yep.
And so our slant on that is we're going to look at creature types this year.
Yes.
So we're going to look at fae. We're going to look at oozes. We're going to look at goblinoids. And
when you said oozes out loud, I'm like, how much are we going to have to talk about that? But you know what? I bet you surprisingly, we're going to say a lot to say.
Yes. And so that's going to be our goal is to look at these different categories.
Yep.
And just kind of break them down. Just do a general overview and do our homework and come with some information that I think will be useful for you folks.
I just love this, the deep dive on these. You know, as a DM, sometimes I flip through the monster manual or bestiary someplace, and I'm just like, man, there's so much out here, but I can't seem to find exactly what it is that I'm wanting. And I think something like this will really help to kind of give you resources or like ideas to go forward as you're creating a campaign. And so how to use these different creature types. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. And then finally, we are going to commit to recapping our At the Table adventures.
Foot is down.
So yes,
we're doing it.
We'll do that. So we'll get back to that and try to be good storytellers with that.
Do our best.
Yep. We found out there are 5 months.
Yes.
With 5 Tuesdays. So we have to do top 5s on those particular 5-week months.
Yes. So this month is a month that has 5 Tuesdays.
Yes. What are we doing?
So this month we will be doing a top 5 fantasy genre portrayals on TV and film.
Yes.
So our favorite portrayals of this genre, which I think is really cool. And when I started saying it to you and I started like rattling off these different titles, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's actually quite a bit out there.
We are going to have to edit ourselves pretty carefully, I think, on that one. My brain is already kind of spinning. I think I might focus on, I don't know, favorite fantasy character or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But you don't have to. I'm just saying that might help me wrap my head around this. So
yeah.
Yep. And then throughout we're going to have other top 5s. Mm-hmm. I got excited filling up this calendar. I thought there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Indeed. I can't wait. And you know, I didn't have to have the goblins here, Dan, because as we started doing it, I kept getting more and more excited, and we sent them away. I'm staying here, and I'm not. You know, just that ADHD sometimes kicks in, and I just get off topic and off task. But if we do have something that comes up, because this schedule I think is pretty well set, not that we aren't flexible. So when we have something that comes up, like a new book is released, or we have the opportunity to meet with somebody that we weren't especially expecting, we'll throw out some of those extra interviews or conversations on. Typically we do Thursdays, but it might show up on another time as well. So keep to our social media to learn about those items when they come. You know, this is so much fun. I really had a good time putting this schedule together. But I hope as listeners, it helps give you an idea of what is coming up on Teachers in the Dungeon. And, you know, we'll probably post the basic schedule. I'll put that out on the website so that you're like, what is this week? And you can see, is it an interview week? Is it a recap of Waterdeep or one of our games? Put that out there. Again, accountability on us.
Yes.
But also give you as the listener a chance to know what's coming up on Teachers in the Dungeon. So this recap, or this preview, not recap, but this preview of 2024 went a lot longer than I was anticipating it would.
Yes.
I thought that this was going to be a really quick show for us, but I guess we have a lot to say, and we have a lot of work to do. But I'll just one last time say, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, man, I wish they would do this, please, please, please reach out to us and let us know your ideas and your thoughts, because, you know, we do this because it's fun for us, but we also do it because, you know, we like to share ideas and share the things that we're doing or that we could be doing with all of you. So let us know. Happy New Year, everybody. We look forward to visiting with you and sharing with you all year long. So for Dan Ream, I'm Tom Gross. This is Teachers in the Dungeon. And as always, keep rolling those 20s. We'll see you later, folks.